Just wrapped up 2 marathon work days back to back here at our 6-acre Trumansburg spot, and thought I would pause and do some update now that the growing season's really underway here, and show what we've been up to lately, how the plants are growing, how the nursery is evolving, and all that, so stick around. The theme for the last 2 days was mulching and mowing. Basically starting to get the areas cleared and opened, get the access along pathways opened up, being able to harvest that material, which I'll talk about in a moment, and chipping away at this mountain of wood chips. There's going to be a huge project of line management. The electric company is having all the telephone and electric lines pruned soon, and I hope to intercept 100 or 200 yards of chips. So Juan and I spent a bunch of time with these crates and hay fork harvesting out these old wood chips. They're about 3-4 years old, and we sowed all the lumps to winter squash and mulched a bunch of plants. I'll take a wander out to the woods and show folks what's going on out there. Sometimes it can feel cheesy to me to be spending so much time mowing. I have a 80-volt electric push mower with a bag on the back, and it allows me to harvest every last fleck of what I mow. And so it actually incentivizes the mowing process because I'm getting green manure. I also have a riding mower that is lithium ion, and that allows me to do some more coarse mowing and pull a trailer behind me with a whole bunch of crates of compost and the like. But doing that mowing work really gets us just so much mulch and manure to support plants. So it's been helpful to have that, and it really tidies up the place quite a bit. One of the things we were doing with that compost, or with the aged wood chip, is dumping a full crate, so it's 10 gallons, in a pile where in the fall we'll plant a shrub here. Like this may be a goomyberry, this may be a honeyberry, we may put serviceberry. But for now it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 acorn squash, and we can transplant something like an amaranth in the middle. And we've dotted them everywhere we think we'll put a shrub or a tree in the fall. Probably a shrub more likely. You can see there, and one just before. Bop, bop. And so butternut squash and acorn squash will be coming out of that, each of these lumps, and encouraged to climb all over the downed trees and up into the hazelnuts. Last year we lost a lot of our squash because of voles eating the fruit, and so we planted them now with the idea that they should be able to climb up and into fencing. In this case, we've got this here, and it can climb up into the larch tree. Maybe we run strings or rope between the larch trees so the fruits can hang down. We'll share notes how that as that evolves. But we spent about 2 hours and were able to set up about 100 of these planting spots, which is a whole lot of potential squash. And you can see it's pretty coarse, but by using the push mower, the electric push mower, and bagging all the clippings, it makes this amazing nutrient-loaded mulch that I can put next to plants. So this was an Asian pear, another Asian pear, and so now they've got some mulch to the south of them to visually help them pop, so I keep track of them more, and also both suppress weeds, retain moisture, and add fertility. So mowing can be a very generative act if you're pulling yields from the effort. There's so much going on the edges of this space, pretty feral but really functional. There's currants and big grafted mulberry. There's persimmons absolutely everywhere at this point, probably about 100 in this landscape. And I do plan to add more because they do just very well here. We come into this woodland glade. This is where we do some production autumn olive and yasterberry, white currants, red currants, and black currants. Those are all on trellises over there. But in the shade of this ash tree, we have some pawpaw nursery work happening. So these are second-year trees coming up, and Juan and I went through the other day and thoroughly weeded around them and added some of that wood chip mulch. You can see all these pawpaws. There are maybe a few thousand of them. And so we'll wait till we get some rains. It's been a little bit dry here lately. And once we get some rains, we'll think about something like a beet or a parsnip or a carrot on either side of them in these areas that we've mulched so thoroughly. Got 1 row, 2 row, and that row is going to be open for something else. So it's an interesting mix of both annual and biennial crop rotation for the sake of nursery stock, and then long-lived perennial food and medicine bearing systems, all in a really cozy context of, you know, some sun. That's looking south, that's the morning, but afternoon this whole area is in dappled shade. So the drier we get, the more these sorts of microclimates are just really functional and really relaxing for the plants. We went through and cut all the bamboo stalks back this winter, zeroed out the stands, and these are all the new shoots coming up. You can see all these stalks. We're using them extensively to protect trees and plantings from deer and rabbits and turkeys. So we have piles and piles of all these stalks that we can work with, and all the new bamboo is coming up. This shoot in front of me is about 2 weeks old, and it's about 9 feet tall. They're growing a few inches a day at this point. It's pretty remarkable. It'll be a completely filled out grove again. But it was nice cutting out all the old material. It gave a huge light release to the bur oak here, to some plums and autumn olives, a bunch of hazelnuts that we've got planted over there. There's a whole bunch more plums over here. So once in a while, cutting back the bamboo, zeroing it out, making one huge harvest, and then having a renewal moment is pretty nice. I forgot there was even a hazelnut in here, and now it's got a release for a year. Pretty neat scenario. You can see that where the bamboo is where young trees are, or other seeding. And we're trying different ways. We're just kind of throwing them around. They're so loud and they move a lot when deer walk through them. It seems a little startling, but there's a little apple tucked in there. Whole bunch of other little trees growing, and then this area around the pond that we dug this summer, which has drained down, needs to be sealed in a more proper way, but that's fine, that's for another day. You can see bamboos being used all over here to protect little elders that just went in, and cornelian cherries. And then this area where it's just absolutely wild with bamboo, this whole zone has been sown to a very special heirloom flint corn. And so I wanted to have a setup in here. Those little orbs are all onions, just to make a little bit of an aromatic distraction for diggers. But there's a few hundred corn seed in here, and the idea is it's basically like a minefield of spiky bamboo. We'll see how well that works. There's more work to be done, I'm guessing. Tightly mowed lawn seems like a non-permaculture vibe. It's a lot more mowing than I would want to do, but it also does feel pretty nice. It looks pretty fancy when the area is freshly mowed. And I would venture a guess, I emptied the bag on the back of that electric mower at least, it's probably at least 100 times in the last day or two. I would guess there was at least 1,000 pounds of really bright green, nutrient-rich, moisture-rich mulch that came from all of that. So I try to mow infrequently. It was the first time we did this season. We'll probably do it 2 or 3 times in total. But yeah, this area over here was where we put a lot of effort today. We renovated the A-frame that we made out of white ash and stacked some functions for sure. We worked on digging this pond out a lot deeper, getting some steps into it. The weediest parts that had vegetation was put along the edge of these beds, and then potatoes were planted in. Bed edges are always where it's the weediest, so committing potatoes all the way around the edge seemed like a reasonable way to work with the inevitability of weeds. Then we filled the interior of the bed with some of the nicer topsoil, and these are now sown out to a mixture of winter squash and crimson clover, as well as some nursery stock, perennial sunflower seeds in the middle. And these are planted out to winter squash, just basically 5-gallon buckets of soil dumped all along here, and they'll be trained up through bamboo over and onto this trellis, and we'll run some ropes up into that pear and up into that apple, so we can just have a huge thing of winter squash hanging up off the ground here. The perennial parts of the system are feeling really nice lately. We've got some black currants that are just absolutely gorgeously large. This one right here is just a beast. some nitrogen fixer in there. Got a little river locust pumping some nitrogen. And the fruit set on these is astronomical. I think this is going to be a big year for harvesting currants. And the sea berries this year are going to be pretty well loaded as well. These are seedlings that we planted, and I identified this one as a male this spring, cut branches when they were dropping pollen and put them on all these other female seedlings that are through here. Over time, we're realizing this is a plant we can commit basically unlimited numbers of them to this landscape. The deer don't mess with them. They're tolerant of wet conditions or dry conditions. They're just incredibly well adapted to how challenging this site can be as far as dryness, then wetness, and then a group of 10 deer browsing with desperation on top of all that. It's been a tough year for a lot of the crops, but good ways to test what plants we can lean into that can be able to survive and thrive with a lot of challenge. We also have some baked and parched areas. We dug up elderberry and blackcurrant from here this spring. This is a good lesson learned, something that I wouldn't consider a success. Basically, digging that out, not thinking through what happens with it, is a great way for it to just become both dry and weedy. So in an ideal world, what we should have done is the day that we were digging out these elderberries and the black currants would be to have with us seed for something like a kale or a radish, so that we're getting a crop out of here instead of just having blank, sad soil. But we'll get back to it after some rains and get it patched up again. The Woodland air prune boxes are doing their thing. These are some very nice cultivar hazelnuts, probably about 90% germination in this box, maybe around 70 or 80% germination in this one. We've got them dotted all throughout here. They get lots of sun in the morning and then shade in the late day, and they seem completely content with that. And it's been fun. We're experimenting now in this landscape, putting air prune boxes where we'd like to do some permanent garden beds. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I've got a spike was catching my toe. Basically put the air prune boxes where they can be for a season or two, and then we can dump them out and convert these into permanent 4-foot by 8-foot garden beds. But in the meantime, get a few thousand trees in exchange. These are all chestnuts. For the end of May, for them to be that tall is just extremely promising. They should be able to get 3 feet tall this year pretty easily. More hazelnuts. Lots and lots and lots of plants everywhere. Oh my gosh. And some water holes that could use a bit of filling. We have all of our cisterns filled, so we've got a good reserve, but I would love to see some good rain in this landscape. And I'm really appreciating the work we did this winter when the ground was frozen to bring all these round bales of hay and stage them in the landscape. It's going to make it has been making it so much easier to mulch thoroughly and really take care of these plantings. So it's a good reminder to keep busy and effective in the winter, and it makes the crunch time of summer a lot more manageable. More woodland context growing. Got a whole bunch of production gumi in here. They'll stay permanently. Worked up the space in between them and set that to a black Spanish round radish. So we're doing alley cropping of annuals in between the gumi. And then in this bed, I worked it up and we've got it planted out to pawpaws, which are meant to stay here for the long run. But instead of just having dead space between them, there's potato production in between each of the pawpaws. So we'll hopefully see some good yields and good establishment from that. And then just potatoes everywhere else that there is hay. With winter squash planted to be able to climb this hedgerow. Again, anytime we can have the winter squash get up and off the ground, it seems like we have a better chance of avoiding losses to voles. We also speaking of voles, we planted sunchokes out in a lot more places just to see if we can get enough numbers to offer them at scale again. So this is all sunchoke with bamboo protecting them. There's a lot happening back in these woods, and it's nice. I think it's a good reminder you don't need to clear cut a landscape in order to have production. I'm looking more or less south here, and the summer sun That's a good long enough stroke of sun to keep everybody in here happy. I mean, the gumi are growing beautifully, and they're the ones that would like the most sun, but they're not leaning much at all, and they're ready to put on a strong fruit crop. So why bathe everything in punishing sun if they can get a nice break after a long day of photosynthesizing? It's exciting to see. Some of the potatoes are coming up. We'll just not worry about weeding at all or watering at all, and what will happen is when we get some strong rains in another few weeks, I'll just go in with a sharp shovel and cut wherever there are weeds and flip them upside down. So we'll slowly be reclaiming more and more space. We'll gouge out all the grasses in the walkway, boom, flip those over, basically heal the potatoes through the process of weeding, through the process of digging, so that we have deeper swales that can hold more water. Win-win-win-win-win situation. We didn't make the time when we were planting. I was intending to document another project at a different spot, the place where we grow our garlic. That farmer gave us permission to work up another ½ acre, and so we planted the entirety of that to potatoes this spring. So it's 400 pounds of seed potato, which theoretically could yield 4,000 pounds of potatoes. It's way more than we need, quite obviously. The intent is to be able to donate a whole bunch of them to food banks and to folks in need in the fall. I'll share notes as that process evolves, but the reason I'm mentioning it is because we're probably going to look for a lot of help in the harvest in the fall. So if you're not too far from the Ithaca, New York area and you want to hang out and help us dig potatoes, you can bring a bunch home for your own needs, and that'll let us prep the space to do garlic production. Just keep it in the back of your mind. It'll be at the end of August. We'll share more notes as we go. That's enough wandering for today. I've got to load up the truck, head back home, and get compost for the chickens on the way. But you can get a lot done in 2 days of mowing and mulching and seeding and growing. And yeah, let me know if you got some questions or thoughts or ideas or concerns, other areas of this property you'd like to see more detail. I'll probably do a couple more polyculture and guild videos soon. But for now, I'm wrapping it up. Hope you have a lovely day.